You feel this nervousness on the phone there?
Sir, I've been trying to make an urgent phone call up there.
Well, I don't think it's something I want to do on an overseas phone.
You gotta make some phone calls. Hang up the phone. Prank caller.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet podcast. I am your host and resident fanalist, as always, Ryan Schlip. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_data. It's the wrong freaking intro again. This is Packernet After Dark. Pardon my brain lapse. I just woke up a little bit ago. Let me have a little sip of coffee here. Hold on. Please hold. Okay, I'm back. 608-501-0718 is the number to call if you'd like to call in. We're going to continue from the front because I kind of like that arrangement. And so we've got Arles. Take it away.
Hey, what's up, Ryan? It's Arles. I was drinking a little bit yesterday. I don't even remember what I said when I called, and I hope it wasn't too bad. I'm sure I'll hear it.
I don't know, because we didn't get there yet. So that's the only problem with going backwards is you get a lot of people referring back to things we haven't heard yet.
On the next Packernet After Dark. But if I said anything that was off the deep end, my apologies, man. I try not to call when I'm in the height of my emotions, especially if I drink, which I almost never do. But listening to the pod today, man, and you did say one thing. I do agree with you. I feel that the team is broken. And, for good reason. I mean, we're all human, man. We all, face insurmountable challenges, and we just feel like, what's the point? Or I can't win, or this is impossible. And I understand that, but I also have a different kind of mindset, man. I'm a retired Marine Corps officer, and I face some pretty big challenges in my day. And the concept of insurmountable, impossible, overwhelming, man, it just doesn't exist for me, really, man. And I can understand how it exists, for most people, but not for me. And I know, like comparing football players to soldiers, it's a lot of similarities, but I think the biggest difference is, you're not playing football to live. You're not necessarily at the risk of death playing football as you are, overseas, pumping shells down range. But with that being said, they are professionals, or they're trained professionals, just as trained in their craft as we are, if not more, So I don't like that sentiment of the team being broken. It may be possible, but if they are, well, don't stay broken forever. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps and figure it out. And figuring it out may not be mission accomplishment. It may not be winning the Super Bowl, and that's understandable, right? You can't win everything, but as we used to say when we do our physical fitness tests, one of the tests is a 3-mile run. And one of the things that I would tell my Marines is when you cross that finish line, if you feel in your heart, or you think to yourself that, hey, I could have ran faster, I could have done better, then you didn't try hard enough. You didn't push yourself. You held back. When you cross that finish line, you should be damn near vomiting. You should be shaking. You should be sucking in air, thinking you're going to pass out, because that's how you know that you gave it your all. If you weren't doing that, then I don't want to hear it. You didn't try hard enough. Learn how to get a fighter spirit, is what I would tell them. Learn how to push yourself so that you don't have to look back and have regrets. Put it all out there, right? The 3-minute lunch is about to give you.
This is a phenomenal point. We'll get to part two. It's a very, very good point that I have not really considered, and it's one of those things that's like instantly shifted my perspective. But what it has occurred to me as you were talking is that the NFLPA has ruined football. Here's what I mean by that. As you were talking, I was thinking, and I was like, this is exactly right. We set such low standards for football players, it's unbelievable. First of all, the reason as a Marine, not that I'm going to tell you anything, I wasn't in the military, you are, but I think there are certain things that we all know, we've watched shows or whatever, is that, for some people you are kind of somewhat born this way, but all these things are taught and trained. They find that weakness and they break it. That's the whole, a lot of this is about breaking those things and training you to not react to these things, training you to be calm in these situations, training you to do all these different things. And it made me think about, for example, like MMA fighters. There's a lot that goes into that. First of all, the fact that they have to beat their bodies to death to strengthen it, to condition it so that it doesn't hurt when you catch a frickin' kick to the shin. You just keep on going because your shin has taken 1,000 kicks already. But also when you're in pain, you don't show emotion. You don't show anything. The ability to fight through fatigue is something that is trained over and over and over again. And yet football players have no ability to control their emotions. They can't control anything. They seem so completely inept. It seems like the only thing they can do is read a playbook and then work a little bit on fundamentals. But by a little bit, I mean like a couple hours here and there, and that's it. I mean, it's really unbelievable how little they have to do. I mean, granted, they can do things themselves if they want to, but you listen to like what Kobe Bryant put himself through. This isn't necessarily what his team put him through, although maybe it should have been. But you look at like what the top of the top people do. They are 24/7. And this is why, again, when I go back to making fun of, and this is what annoys me with fans, is they get so like sensitive about the, how dare you tell him what to do with his time? Okay, stupid. You just, and this is where I'm guessing we're on the same wavelength here. You don't understand what it actually takes to be at the top. Again, greatness isn't just some random thing. Like, he's just a good player, and it doesn't matter if he ever practices or does anything. None of this stuff matters. Of course it does. Of course it matters. You look at, again, Kobe Bryant, the stuff he would do. The guys that are just the best of the best. And this is why I admire, Rashawn Gary. People make fun of him because of the videos he puts out. It's not the videos. I don't care about social media. I care about the fact that he's a guy that has that mentality. And I know a lot of other guys do, and they just don't put it on film, and that's fine. But what annoys me, and the reason I blame the NFLPA, is that teams should have the capacity to do these things. They should push people to their absolute limits. They should be pushing people to the point of throwing up and telling them, get up and get back out there. They should push people to the brink of their physical, mental, and emotional abilities and then tell them, when they start fighting or whatever, when they start getting upset, that they need to control that. So that when it's the fourth quarter of a game, there's no excuse of, well, they were fatigued. There's no excuse of, well, their hearts were broken because they saw this player go down. There's none of that. It's what my coach was just talking about yesterday in our class, because we got a guy with a fight coming up. We got fight camps during the week. And he was saying, you need to get in here and you essentially need to break him here so that he doesn't get broken out there. And in the Marines, you can do that. And in, fighting things, you can do that because there's not a lot of regulation on the kinds of things you can do to a guy. You take it as far as you possibly can just so that you don't, actually physically break bones or whatever, so that or concuss the guy so you can actually fight. But you want to push people to their absolute breaking point. These guys live at the gym. Everything they eat is completely regulated. And then I go on social media, and again, you see A.J. Dillon playing video games with a cowboy hat on. You got guys getting pulled over because they're smoking weed and driving such and such down the field, and it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Oh, what's the big deal? What's the big deal? Bro, listen, I'm not saying individual people don't have the right to relax and do all these kinds of things. What I am saying is, if you're going to tell me that you are in the National Football League and you are the elite of the elite, and we're going to pay you millions and millions of dollars to represent the Green Bay Packers as the elite of the elite, I have higher expectations for you than Fred, my neighbor. And if you don't freaking understand that, I don't know how to help you. Yes, I expect you to wake up, and when you're awake, you're doing football. It's crazy because you look at Tom Brady, and it's like the guy was the greatest of the greatest because he lived and he breathed football. He did everything, his diet, all that. And it's like, isn't everybody doing that? If not, why not? I mean, bro, I've worked regular frickin' jobs with guys who live and breathe their job, and they're getting paid like $30 an hour. They go home and they take their work home with them, and they don't have to. They're staying awake at night thinking about problems, and then they come back to work and they were like, I was thinking about it all night, and I think we could do this and this and this and this. And it's like, bro, why were you thinking about work at home? You make $30 an hour. You got guys making hundreds of thousands of dollars like per day. Yes, I expect absolute perfection from you. I expect what RLS is talking about. And again, the problem I have with the NFLPA is they're telling teams you can't push people to do really anything. You got your meetings where you sit down and you give some cheesy little pep talk, and then you say, here's our game plan, and then you send them off to their position coaches, and they sit down, watch a little tape in these little rooms where they're eating Cheetos, and then you send them off to the weight room, and they do a little workout with the training staff, and then they go out to the field, and they do like maybe 1 to 2 hours maximum, and then you have to let them go. I'm sorry, when did they get pushed in that scenario? I could do that. Anyone listening to this could do that. I'm not talking about to their capabilities. Obviously, they're better football players than me. But in terms of physical and mental, like, can you handle this? Of course, anybody could handle that. It's not even hard. They're not even trying to make it hard. But that ends up being the problem. And you're right, we do have these expectations. Like, when I did this, and I'm sure there's a billion other applications you can think of outside of the military and fighting, the fighting arts, where people will, go to the apps. I mean, in business, it's a different kind of thing. It's not as physical, but, some guys will do the craziest things. You listen to some of these guys and the things that they're willing to do and go to and through and put themselves through, and what they get when they get up and their routines. And I mean, your average freaking Joe bodybuilder, not to mention like actual bodybuilders who, I mean, give me a break with those guys. Go on YouTube right now and watch like, what's that guy's name? I saw a video of Kai Green, and this is standard. It's from 13 years ago. Kai Green, A Day in the Life, KAIGREENE, A Day in the Life, part 1, 2, and 3. This is what bodybuilders do just to do what they do. Listen to me, this is what everybody has to do if you want to be the best. Go look at Olympians, go look at anybody. But in the NFL, they have a players union that has stripped away any ability to force them to do it, and so they have to kind of self-police. But it ends up being the lowest common denominator because everybody just has decided that I don't really need to do that. I'm a super athletic, naturally talented guy. I don't have to do it, and most of the other NFL doesn't do it. You've got a handful of people that do and end up becoming superstars, but you don't even need to do that. I mean, it's actually embarrassing, the fact that, when you hear a story of, what was it, Romeo Dobbs, I think it was, back when he was either a rookie or whatever, when everybody left the field, he grabbed some of the people from the training staff or whoever and was like, let's stay back. I want to work on the jugs machine. And that should be a very common occurrence. And the whole team should be staying back. And the only ones that are not staying back are guys that have other things planned with personal trainers and everything else. You guys make so much money, you should have the guys that you work with in the offseason should be in Green Bay with you, training you. You should have personal trainers and your personal, pass rush coaches and all these guys. I know that they have multiple people all over, but you try to get them there. And if you can't, you find somebody else that can. You should have a team of people there with you all the time that are working with you, grinding with you, that are pushing you, because the team can't do it. So you should do it. And again, it's not hard to see why these things aren't happening. Look at the complete lack of discipline. Look at how their moods go to zero. By the way, the reason that momentum is a thing is because the thing that we're feeling, the players feel too. They shouldn't be feeling it. They shouldn't feel anything. This is where there are like certain people that coaches love that just forget things. They should all just forget things. Do you think like elite snipers in the military, they're like, yeah, some guys are really good at like controlling their heart rate. Some guys are really good at controlling their breathing. No, every single one of them is. They don't get in unless they can do it. We don't have guys on this team that break mentally and emotionally. We train that out of them. That's just not a thing in the NFL. We bring you out of college, you come here, we give you a book and a couple lessons, and then we send you out on the football field and have you run plays. It's kind of ridiculous. Part 2.
And so just to follow what I was saying, man, I would say, and I think I missed this, I'm pretty sure I did, but, one of the lines that I would say is, a warrior spirit, carries you forward, pushes you when your body grows weak. You're tired, you're fatigued. The best spirit at that point is what's taking over.
Right.
It's dragging, you're weak, tired, exhausted body alone. They need that. And I'm not saying the Packers players don't have that. I know some of them do.
Some
I know
do,
collectively,
100%.
You know, you can't feel worn out. And I'm not saying they're incapable of it.
And this, by the way, is why I go to PFF and I say, who's showing up? Who's there? And by the way, that's not exactly a perfect way to do it, obviously, because one of the guys I would say that has it didn't have a great day, but it's Josh Jacobs. And it's because he went out there and he gave everything he had when he was completely battered. I don't know, but if I had to, grab a couple guys that I would say had what you're calling warrior spirit, I would grab Rashawn Gary. I would grab Josh Jacobs. I'm beginning to lean toward Javon Bullard. He is just starting to become a freaking animal that seems to be very quiet, just has his head down, just does his job, just continues to get better. I don't know what his personal routine is. I don't know, but he doesn't seem to be very affected by, hey, things aren't going well and I'm sad. Just a casual observation. We'll see how things go. But I don't seem to notice him being affected by things. He just gets better and better and keeps doing his freaking job.
Of overcoming these challenges, but yeah, I do feel like they were broken yesterday, and I understand it, but, let it sit in, let it sink in. I just don't want this to carry on next week and the rest of the season and the postseason, right? We're down. We're down and out. We got people out, so what, man? I don't expect anything from the Packers moving forward than best efforts. Go in that field and just do the absolute best you can do, and that includes, the mind, for not making these errors. Romeo Dobbs, Sean Ryan, at the end of the game, these things cannot happen. Weeks 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, 10, sure, whatever, but we are basically in the playoffs already. These mental mistakes are done. They had all season to figure it out, to work through them, and now it's time to lock in. So, all that to say, just expect the Packers moving forward. I don't care about wins or losses. I just want to go out there and see best efforts. And if we lose, so be it. Then we lose. But I don't want to lose like this. If the team beats us because they just out-executed us, fine.
Right.
I don't want any more losses.
Exactly.
Because we're just doing dumb things, man. Beating ourselves. I'm tired of it. With that being said, fully confident in my team. Love my team, man. And I just, this loss hurts, but I kind of feel like you, Ryan. I woke up this morning and I was like, I'm not even mad. I just, at this point, I just want to see them do better, man. Just close out these games stronger. You lose, you lose. But close out knowing that, damn it, we did everything we were supposed to. This wasn't our day. All right, brother. I'll talk to you. Bye.
Yeah, and, it's... I could see the objection saying, well, it's not fair to compare them to warriors. This isn't war, it's football. That's not the point, though. The point is that these are things that we know can be trained. We know that you can take human beings and you can train them and adapt them to their environment. You can train them and adapt them to be the thing you need them to be. We know this, right? We know how to make a bodybuilder a bodybuilder. We know how to make a warrior a warrior. And some people can't cut it, but if you're in the NFL, we already know you've passed the test. Now it's about turning you've passed, Navy SEAL school, right? You sat in the tub or in the swimming pool until you were willing to die in there. You passed, congratulations, right? We freaking, now you're there. We know you can do it. We need to be able to train you to be what we need you to be. We can mold people into exactly what they need to be. We know how to do it. We know what's required of you. And it just seems like in other areas, we look at a much more holistic approach of everything. We need every part of you. Every cell in your body needs to be a frickin' Marine, needs to be a SEAL, needs to be whatever, a bodybuilder, a martial artist, whatever. We know how to do that physically, mentally, and emotionally, and we have to prepare you for that. And in football, it just doesn't seem like we do that. And the evidence is out on the football field where guys are in no control whatsoever of their emotions. They're making silly mistakes. They're out there getting fatigued and tired and upset and pouty and all this crap. And we just, so that's fine. You got DK Metcalf punching guys in the stands because they used his name. We're not training these people to be football players. These are athletic guys that we give a playbook to and we say, okay, go run this play. And that's basically it. I mean, we try to train their bodies to be what we want it to be, right? We need you to be 210 pounds. You know, we're going to monitor your body mass index. You can slap on a little muscle here or whatever. Try to regulate your diet. And again, we put you in the weight room and all that kind of stuff. But again, that just kind of comes down to we're trying to make you this 6'2", 210-pound wide receiver that can run fast and jump high and knows the playbook. Okay, but what about the mental and emotional part of things? Is there anything in our plan here that works that? Because you can't even say practice because you're not allowed to practice. The two-a-days and all that stuff that they used to do.
At the front door.
Okay, the two-a-days that they used to do, that was part of the point. It was to break you. That you're so unbelievably physically exhausted that a 60-minute game of football where you're sitting on the bench half the time is nothing. You're not tired at the end of a football game. Are you kidding me? They're not allowed to do that anymore because it's too hard, because it's not nice. It's stupid. They're not allowed to physically, mentally, and emotionally break players anymore because the NFLPA has taken that away from teams and their abilities to do those things. And I don't know what else they can do other than their cheesy pep talks that nobody cares about. I can't think of anything less inspiring than Matt LaFleur giving me a pep talk. I'm sorry. I can't. This is just, there's no way. Take a break. We'll be right back.
Ryan, hey, Aaron from Eau Claire. It's Sunday morning after the Bears game, and I am very upset with this team. They had everything in their control, including winning with their backup quarterback all the way down to the end of the fourth quarter.
Yep.
When they had everything under their control, and they just kept making mistake after mistake. And I don't understand. I think it's one of these things where I want someone to blame. I want someone to point the finger to and go, it was your fault. But I don't know that it was any one player's fault, any one coach's fault. I mean, obviously Romeo Dobbs, you can point the finger at him and say, hey, he dropped that muff punch, or onside kick. And I guess that's fair. But also, they gave up 2 freaking touchdowns late in the game. All they needed to do was protect the end zone. That's all they needed to do. And I don't know. It was very discouraging. It was like, I don't know. I haven't felt, it was worse than last week in my eyes. Even losing Micah Parsons, this win felt worse. Or, I'm sorry, this loss felt worse. Golly, it was just so. It was like, I think this is where I'm kind of. My question is, what is the reason that the Packers keep having a problem staying in the driver's seat when they're in complete control of the game? Because the same thing has happened in several other games, like the Browns game and Eagles game, where they easily could have made the plays necessary to win that game. And it's sort of like it's a weird trend. I don't know what to say about it other than I think at this point it's kind of, there's something there. There's something there that I don't know what it is, but I don't like it. I don't like that it's a similar style of loss in all these different games. So if you can shed some light on that, I would be completely.
Well, I don't know the answer, but let's continue on with what we were just talking about for a second. A lot of people want to blame Matt LaFleur for everything, and I obviously have defended him on a lot of things, but let's Let's explore this for a minute. The Packers are a good team based on all the metrics, but they find ways to lose, especially at the end of games. The Bears are a mediocre team, according to all the metrics, yet have won a lot of games, especially at the very end of games. Again, I don't know this, but let's speculate for a minute. I think Ben Johnson, first of all, is a very good coach, but he's not just a good play caller. He comes from Detroit. And in Detroit, they've done a very good job of motivating people into believing. And I don't know that Matt LaFleur's ever really been good at that. I think he's a very good play caller. I don't know, again, that he's ever been able to motivate anybody ever. Maybe I'm wrong. I just can't imagine that. You know, it's at least possible that the team just doesn't have what the Bears have. They have more talented players. They have, a lot of these things. I don't know that they have that level of internal belief that carries them through even difficult times. I'll sit here and make fun of the Bears all day long, but one thing they have is belief. And that's the thing that's always scared me. I've talked about that. It scares me to death that they believe. But the thing is, they lost to the Packers, and my hope was they needed that so it would break them and break that belief. What do? They go on to win. And then they come back to the Packers and they win again, even though the Packers were beating the crap out of them. How easily could they have been demoralized in that situation? But what did they do? They hung in there, and with the game over, we had 99% chance of winning. With the game over, they found a way to come back and win. They got that lucky onside kick. That was really not a talent thing, but at that point, the game's in your hands. Do you have what it takes, or are you just broken emotionally? No, they're right there. They're ready to rock and roll. They're not giving up. The Packers at that point were broken. They were tired. They had we just all knew that it was over. Every single Packer fan there, I think every single Bear fan knew who was going to win that game. And it wasn't the Packers. Even though we had the lead, we had everything going for us. We're the better team. They can't score against us. I mean, everything's fine. Everything was just perfect. But everybody knew what was going to happen. They knew that the Packers didn't have what it took to win that game, and they knew the Bears did. They had it mentally, they had it physically, they had it emotionally. We call it momentum, but that's all we're really talking about here. The Bears had it at the end of the game, just like they've had it in multiple games. I think they've broken the record in how many games they've won with losing with 2 minutes left or something stupid. The Packers are on the other side. I don't remember the exact situation, but somebody had asked the question. We're a handful of special teams plays away from being like a 12-win team, and there's all these other situations where we had it and we lose it at the end. Sometimes it just comes down to luck. Sometimes it's just one of those things that, it just is what it is, and reading too much into it is reading too much into it. But it's also not impossible that this is a thing that is bred into your DNA as far as who you are. Are you a team that is mentally and emotionally strong? Because not everything comes down to the playbook. Not everything comes down to the right and wrong plays. In fact, I would say less than 50% of it comes down to the playbook. Probably significantly less now that I think about it, because it's not just the mental and emotional side, but also the ability to execute it and everything else. So there's the mental and emotional side. There's also the coaching side. How prepared is everybody? How disciplined is everybody? There's so much that goes into this. And I think we're all looking for this team to show that other side of it. Again, we know Jordan is good via EPA. Great. Can he lead a comeback when the team is down? The answer right now is no. I know he wasn't in this game, but I mean, again, I told you, I went and looked at the statistics because I wanted to make fun of the Bears, and Jordan was worse than Caleb was, so I didn't even bother making fun of Caleb. Jordan, who is leading the league in EPA and all this stuff, if you look at EPA and everything, when we're losing, it's not good. The Packers right now are not a team that plays well when the chips are down. And that includes when we're winning, but momentum is against us, which is pathetic. We're a team that has to be out in front. We have to be winning, and then we have to try to hang on for 4 quarters. Otherwise, we're just not going to win, and that's not okay. We need to be a team that can dominate. We need to be a team that can hang 40 on somebody and blow them out by 20. We also need to be a team that can be down by 20 and come back and win. And I think the reason why every game is so stressful and so hard is because everything has to just be perfect. And anytime anything goes wrong, you just feel like the game is going to slip away. And it shouldn't be that way. And again, I'm not saying anything definitive. I'm not saying that I know that it's Matt LaFleur's fault or anybody else's fault. That would take a lot more work at looking at multiple years and all those kinds of things. It could just be, every year is different. And maybe this year is one of those weird things where we just don't do well at the end of games. And next year we're going to be really good at it. But I do think that the Bears are very good at it, and I think it just is a thing that makes logical sense. Ben Johnson is a good coach. He's a good motivator, and he comes from Detroit, where they are the kings of that. Dan Campbell is like the ultimate motivator. I mean, he's the guy that, when the chips were down early, those first few years, they're still a losing team, and he's standing in front of his team crying, screaming, please, don't give up. Keep believing. I promise you we're going to get there. I promise you. And what happened? They ended up the top of the NFC North, the best team in the NFC. I mean, they were a dominant team. It looks like things are falling apart. Thank the Lord. But that's where Ben Johnson comes from. And he seems to be falling right in that line. And that's what makes the Bears such a scary team, is they're very mentally tough. And it's hard to beat even a mediocre team or a subpar team when they give you 4 solid quarters. And that's just the reality. And that's why they're a tough team. My hope is that eventually we start to break that confidence and things start to go south for them, just like with Detroit. That hype can only last for so long. But in the meantime, if they continue believing and end up adding more talent or whatever, I mean, they're going to be a real scary football team. So they need to get broken. In the meantime, we have to figure out how to be that. Because I feel like, and maybe this is a LaFleur thing, because it does feel like we've been a team for a long time that has looked at a pile of talent. And I think this is where the negative fans get frustrated with me, because I will keep throwing back in their face, actually, look how, we have one of the best teams in terms of, PFF, EPA, blah, 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 blah. We're way more talented than this team. And it is true that, it doesn't mean you're guaranteed to win anything or whatever, but you look at 2019, very talented team. 2020, the best team in the NFL. 2021, very good team. 2023, really good team. 2025, really, the injuries are part of the issue. And maybe if we weren't so injured, it wouldn't even be a question. We would have dominated everybody. We wouldn't even be asking these questions. But it does, feel like on some level we're always this team with a pile of talent that just doesn't seem to be able to put their best foot forward. And like Arles was saying, I don't mind losing to a better team. I'm tired of us beating ourselves all the time. And you look at our playoff losses, it's always us beating ourselves. Maybe not that one 49ers game. I mean, that was a completely, we were so outmatched, it was unbelievable. But the Tampa Bay game was us not showing up. Tampa Bay was also very good, but still, we did not put our best foot forward. When we lost to the Eagles played terribly. The Eagles were a dominant football team that played like crap, but we just played more like crap than they did. You look at pretty much every one of our losses this year. How many times were we outmatched compared to just not showing up? Have we been outmatched once? The Bears game was not us being outmatched. We beat the crap out of them for 4 quarters and lost. Cleveland Browns, give me a break. Panthers, it's hard to even say the Eagles because we scored 7 points. You're telling me we're incapable of scoring more than 7 points against the Eagles? That's a team not showing up. Denver, I refuse to believe that that was our worst defensive performance, I think, of the year. Denver's a good team. I get that, but our offense looked unstoppable against the best defense in football, arguably, and it was our defense. Suddenly our corners can't cover anybody. I mean, they're just picking us apart through the air. And yes, I'm also annoyed that guys like Bo Nix have their best games ever and all that stuff. But our corners have not had any issues, and suddenly our corners are quite bad. Micah Parsons effect, perhaps. I don't know. Anyways, let's take a break. We'll run through the rest of the AA Ron calls here.
One more thing about that game. I'm sure I'm not the only one who felt this way, but as soon as the Chicago Bears recovered that onside kick, I had 0% faith that the Packers would win that game.
Exactly my point.
And it felt like I'd seen this movie before.
Yep.
And it was 2014 against Seattle Seahawks. And it was exactly the same feeling. Oh, just disgusting. It's a gross feeling, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I think the hardest thing is if we win that game, we're feeling great, even after all the losses, all the injuries.
Yeah.
And we should have. And we should have won that game.
Right.
So, I don't know. I'm not of the mind that all is lost for the rest of the season, but it's very, very tough road ahead. And if they can get it done, then all of this stuff will mean nothing. And if they don't, then we get next year, and I guess injuries are just insurmountable sometimes. It's just disappointing because in this case they weren't insurmountable, and they were doing a great job at dealing with the injuries until the very end of the game, and it was just like one of those late game collapses. And I think that's the best way to put it, a collapse.
Yeah.
Like, how could they all of a sudden just completely collapse like that? Bad feeling. So
Completely random. But when you said that, I was like, you know how, and maybe this is a me thing, but everything is always a song. You said bad feeling. I'm like, oh, what song is that? It reminded me of Violent Femmes, Good Feeling. We have not done any Violent Femmes songs. I don't know if AI can do Violent Femmes, but we got to do some Violent Femmes. But you're right. Please continue.
And then, yeah, like, the Rams fired their special teams coach. And I'm sitting here wondering, like, okay, where is our opportunity to do that? Like, we have seen failure after failure on special teams. And special teams should, in my opinion, just be, like, for the most part, automatic. It should be ho-hum, just do the adequate job.
Yeah, since when do we care so much about special teams? You never used to think about special teams. Special teams was just this boring formality that happened. Now it's like a big deal all the time. There's penalties all the time. There's big things that are... What? Why? I feel like I watched in the 90s, and outside of like onside kicks, special teams were boring. I don't understand.
And for whatever reason, the Packers just cannot do it. So why? So that's... do you think Rich Bisacchia continues to keep the job? And if so, is that an irresponsible decision? My question.
There was another point I was going to... See, this is why I always pause. Oh, the before we get there, the thought I had is, you were talking about how, you don't feel like the season is lost and they just got to kind of figure it out or whatever. I agree. And I do think that at this point it is a mental toughness game. And the reality is that's probably every year. And maybe that's why the Packers fall apart in the postseason. I don't know. But at this point it becomes everybody's hurt. Everybody's body is battered. They're mentally exhausted. Is your mind on, I can't wait for this season to end. I'm going to the freaking Caribbean. I'm going straight to Vegas. I can't wait for this to be over. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. You got girls messaging you, is the season over yet? Your boys are messaging you like, dude, we're having a great time. Like, come down and see us. And you're just thinking, oh man, I hate that I have to do this. Or are you freaking locked in? Because that's what this is. Well, there's a lot of injuries. Yeah, everybody's hurt, dude. This is what I talked about going into the Bears game, man. This is like, everybody wants that Rudy story, that comeback story, that come from behind story, the underdog story. And those things are real and they do happen. But it only happens if you're built like Rudy, did you watch the movie? Did you see what he did? What he went through? Did you actually see any of those movies? Mentally and emotionally, how much they were dedicated and given to the things. It's not a thing that just accidentally happens. I talk about percentages a lot, but it's it's not like just winning the lottery, like we're just waiting for it to happen for us, just waiting for our turn. You have to actually physically go out and do it. And the reality is, this is the time when, again, everybody is beaten and battered. A lot of their best players are gone, and it's a matter of who can rise up, who can stay mentally and emotionally strong when they're completely battered and broken and their team is all battered up and half your team wants to quit and everything else. Who's going to be the voice that stands up in the locker room and says it's time to lock in? And again, this is where the training stuff comes in, because it's easy to do a rah-rah speech prior to the game and get all fired up. It's another thing when you're completely gassed to just keep fighting through it, and rather than to mentally and emotionally just kind of give in. A pep talk is not going to get you through 4 quarters of this level of violence. You have to be trained and built for this moment. Have you been training and building for this moment? If not, you're not going to make it. This team will not win a Super Bowl. If our guys on that team have not built themselves mentally for this exact moment, they're never going to win anything. This is, by the way, why teams like the Chiefs and guys like Tom Brady won so many Super Bowls, despite the fact that Tom Brady was never as talented of a quarterback as Aaron Rodgers. But it doesn't matter, because it's not about that. Talent is a portion. It's a piece. It's not the whole equation. And so, I mean, we have 2 winnable games coming up. I mean, we'll see about the quarterback situation. We have 2 winnable games coming up. We have the Ravens that are also kind of beaten and battered and are certainly a shell of themselves. And then we have the Vikings, who are certainly having a bit of luck, or I shouldn't even call it. I don't know. I haven't looked into the Vikings. I don't know what they're doing to win all the time. But it looks like McCarthy's hurt again. And, I mean, obviously, it's a winnable game. You need to win 1. You needed to win 1 of your last 3 games. We're 0 for 1. You have 2 more chances. If you can't do it, then fine. You don't deserve it. And I'll be honest, we will need to have a conversation about Matt LaFleur. As much as I don't want to, as much as I don't like it, as much as it terrifies me, the thought of losing such a brilliant offensive mind and play caller, your team wasn't mentally and emotionally and physically prepared to overcome adversity, which is a requirement for a team that's going to win in the postseason. Well, it's not fair because of all the injuries. I understand that the injuries were a little higher than normal, but I also understand you had a team that was more than capable. You had more talent on your team than the Bears had, and you still lost. It doesn't matter that Tucker and everybody else was gone, because you were the better team. What matters is you were the better team and lost because your team lost their heart. So you have 2 more weeks to win 1 game. If you can't do it, there will be a conversation. It doesn't matter. I'm not the one in charge. But I'm just saying, as a very staunch Matt LaFleur defender, I'm telling you that I'm not saying definitively I will say he needs to be fired. We'll see how it goes. We'll see what, I got to process it a little bit. But I'm just telling you, as of right now, you have 2 more opportunities to beat 2 very winnable games against 2 beatable teams to get into the postseason. I don't care if you don't have very good odds in the postseason. I'm not demanding you win a Super Bowl, obviously. But I need to see this team have more than just an ability to run a playbook. I love your offensive mind, Matt. I do. I love that your guys are running wide open all the time. But the lack of discipline and the lack of heart is not a formula for winning anything. And as for the special teams, it's very similar. A lot of people are of the mind that it's not fair to blame him for Romeo Doubs, and that's obviously fair. Sounds like they've been drilling it all the time, so everything was where it's supposed to be. But in the aggregate, when you look at the totality of our special teams, it just gets to be to a point where how do you not blame the coach on some level? 1 mistake, fine, mistakes happen. Constant, repeated offenses, and Matt LaFleur saying, I think our special teams has actually been quite good. Listen, if you're talking about your field goal kicker being good at kicking field goals, I would agree. If you're talking about your punter being good at punting, I would agree. If you're talking about the totality of special teams, the complete inability to operate without penalties, first of all, We don't have anybody that gets down the field ever to cover punts or kickoffs, punts especially. I mean, we have a good punter, and then it's just wasted because nobody can get down the field. Maybe that's a lack of personnel. I don't know. It seems like we have pretty fast guys. I mean, we had Jeff Janis on the team before, and that dude was down there immediately, all the time. Our gunners were very, very good. We had multiple guys that could do it. Janis was particularly good at it. That guy ran like a 4.42. I'm sorry, can Bo Melton not get down the field? Why? We don't have any 4.42 guys on the team that can get down the field? Interesting. Then, of course, there's the blocked field goal kicks and all the other unacceptable things that happen randomly and very rarely. But these are also things that should never happen, ever. So, yeah, the fact that every Packer fan sat back in their chair, gave up all hope and said, of course it was special teams, that is more the issue than the fact of that one incident. And that's kind of the thing. You sit back and you look and you say, I can't necessarily blame any one thing on the coach. What I can blame is the totality of the situation, that special teams is frustrating and annoying, and I hate it. The fact that Brian Gutekunst went out and got us a good kicker and a good punter, I'm sorry, I'm not going to credit that to Rich Bisacchia and just forget about everything else. Got 2 more AA Ron calls. I'll try to get through them. Try to stop talking so much. I'm friggin' fired up today, apparently.
Also, I'm not really mad at Keyshawn Nixon. He's a guy that I want to have on our team. And if he gives up some coverage, even in like big spots like at the end of the game, I'm not necessarily mad because that's something that's going to happen to any cornerback. And it's not his fault that they don't have anybody play that starting corner position from like a higher talent level or whatever. Like he's doing an amazing job for the expectations that we had for him, which was to be a special teams player. And
well, I don't want to lower the bar too much. You know what I mean? You wanted to be the number one corner. You are the number one corner. And, you gave up 2 receptions for 54 yards and 2 touchdowns or something. It's just not okay. It's just not. I mean, I don't want to overreact to the point where we ignore the fact that he's been quite good for most of the season. But I also want that goodness, the higher level of play to be the standard. And that is my expectation for you. And if you can't live up to that, fine. That's fine. Then we will just look for a replacement for you. And that's just the way it is.
Not really much more. And he has done more than his job for what he was brought in here to do. And he's come into the clutch for us a lot of times. So I don't want to I really don't have any bad feelings for Keyshawn Nixon, but I feel like he should be like the third quarterback or the second quarterback. If he was the second quarterback or third cornerback on the team.
Yeah, maybe, but even that doesn't really work. I mean, we don't do like pure shadow coverage across the board. It's not like every play is man-to-man and you just cover the number 2 receiver every time. I mean, every corner has to be the number 1 corner. Every corner has to, corner is kind of a weakest link thing. Now, you can do some things to help that guy out. You can do some things to, if you have an elite lockdown corner, which almost nobody has, if we're lucky enough to get one of those, then maybe you can put him on an island and protect the other guy. But generally speaking, it's going to be a weakest link thing. They're gonna end up putting their better corner on the other side of the field. And you're going to have to do your job. If you're a bad corner, they're going to pick on you. So, you're going to have to man up and do your job one way or another. Perfect example, this game. The Bears don't have their number 1 or number 2 wide receiver. So at best, he's covering their number 3 wide receiver. And I don't even think, who was the touchdown to? Was it even to DJ Moore or was it to one of these backup nobodies? I don't know. It doesn't matter. I don't know. I don't know.
With a couple of guys above him I think he's a great, like, team piece. And he can make the plays, and he's definitely got the edge. Even if sometimes he gets in trouble, got that mental edge of, like, the aggressiveness. I'm not mad at Keyshawn Nixon for giving up a touchdown.
2 touchdowns.
At the end of the game. But I do think the Packers should probably sort of address the corner position in a more serious way. Not that they need the most elite corner in the league, but I do think they need just a little something more solid to round out the position. And and I was also disappointed that they weren't able to punch in any touchdowns. That was really frustrating because they were moving the ball all day, and I don't know. I just got to move on and
stay on the road, Aaron.
I will try to move on to the next week, but I don't know. It was a very, very disappointing ending to that game that I won't forget soon. And it's funny too, because I'm like, let me call it right back.
Yeah, and again, it's always easier said than done to just fix things. I was talking to, I think it was Beer Cheese about that. I think they've done the right thing as far as trying to address offensive line. The biggest issue is they've failed at addressing the offensive line. The other reality is they could have drafted every single cornerback in the entire draft class, and I don't know that we would have anybody that would be producing at a high level, because 0 of the corners from this draft class are, certainly none of them are number 1 corners. Certainly not lockdown elite corners. And then if you look at, the odds of, let's say we drafted 1 or 2 that any of them would have ended up being good, that the odds are shockingly low, because I think there's 1 third-round pick that has like a 70 or higher coverage grade. None of them have an overall grade. And guys that I would say the most coveted corner by Packers fans was Jahdae Barron, and he's one of the worst corners in football right now. And free agency is last year was a complete joke. DJ Reed was the only guy. I think he's on IR right now. So literally there was nothing the Packers could have done to improve our corner position, unfortunately. So, and again, if we're talking about moving forward, we need to address it more. We can, but if you take, especially without a first-round pick, if you take multiple swings at corner, number 1, there's no guarantee you've done anything to fix your corner position. And number 2, those are 2 picks that cannot go to offensive line, to defensive line, or anything else that we need, which I would say, again, I still stand by the fact that offensive line and defensive line are bigger needs for this team. By defensive line, I'm talking interior. I'm talking defensive tackles, than corner. I think Valentine is a really solid corner. Bullard is becoming a very solid. I mean, and to be fair, I mean, I think Keyshawn probably is our number 3, just in terms of talent. Whether the Packers treat him as that, I don't know. But Valentine is our number 1, and Bullard as a slot is probably our second best corner. I think Keyshawn is our third best corner. Valentine has had a bad day, maybe couple days, I don't know. But, you get the pass rush, the defensive line, you get Micah Parsons back. We're not going to notice the corners anymore. That's going to be taken care of, especially if we get defensive line help, get anybody on the interior that can do anything. You're really not going to have to worry about your corner. If you get a big, solid, stout run defender so that your pass rushers can focus on pass rushing as opposed to we need to focus on stopping the run, that defensive line is out of control good. The corners are not a problem anymore. Yeah, I'm still of the mind offensive line and defensive tackle are our biggest needs. But, again, I'm not opposed to trying to find a corner, but I just don't want to get people stuck in this idea of like, just fix it. Just go get that first-round corner, and then you can focus on these other things. That first-round corner is probably going to suck, just so we're clear. I just want to be clear on that. And that's why best player available makes the most sense all the time. Because the odds that you're going to miss here are relatively high. And if you're reaching on a guy that you have closer to a second round grade on, as opposed to like the one guy you still have a first round grade on, just because it's you're just asking for trouble. And it really just was not a good corner group. There was a lot of guys that had hype, but it really just never was. I mean, the amount of guys that, Savone Revel was another one, but he's a small school guy, bad injury history. Will Johnson, real bad injury history and a terrible 40. Trey Amos was like the only guy that I think kind of seemed solid, sort of. And he's kind of right now. No, any one of these guys could pop off, but the point is, pick one now. Who are you going to pick? You don't know. There's none of them right now that you would want. So, if you want to wait 3 years, find the one guy that ended up being good and then come back and say you failed for not getting this one. Fine, you can play that stupid game if you want, but it's a stupid game and it's not a serious game. It's not a serious conversation. That's also why, by the way, it's a very serious and scary situation when you invest in offensive line and just miss so many times, because the odds of you finding replacements are, it's tough. And that's why, there needs to be a fast discussion about the GM, because we need to know if this is the guy. Because if we're just going to keep missing, this team will go to zero so unbelievably fast. However, it can turn around real fast with the right GM. So, it's going to be a tough question. I like Gutekunst, all that, whatever. But, we'll do this more at the end of the season, kind of go back and look. But it's also hard to tell. Devontae Wyatt was on a breakout. He's out. Van Ness looked like he was about to break out. He's out. It's very hard when, his recent hits are not looking like we're going to be able to give him credit for, aside from maybe Bullard. Cooper fell off, so that's not great for his campaign. Not that he's bad, but he's certainly not a top linebacker in the NFL right now. I don't know. Did we do your final call? Let me play this final one here. Go.
I have so much more to say than I thought I would. I think I need this to move on with my day.
That's fine.
Otherwise, these thoughts will just be sitting bothering me all day. So thanks for listening.
Yeah. Go ahead. Hello? Are you okay?
Everything.
Oh, there we go.
And, you gotta, and this will confirm the national media's, narratives about all this stuff, but they were playing the Packers half of the Packers backups. They were playing a Packers unit that was decimated, and then they lost their quarterback, and then they still were the Packers were still completely in control of that game until the very last minute. And so I don't know, if you're a Bears fan, gloating about this win, I just don't think there's much to gloat about, If we went into Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes went out halfway through the game, and their top pass rusher went out, and Travis Kelce went out, and their other players were dealing with injuries, and nobody was healthy, and we beat them barely with a miraculous comeback in overtime, I think we would kind of be pissed. Dude, you were playing the Kansas City Chiefs, junior varsity squad, and we barely beat them.
Well, right, and you certainly wouldn't feel good about the future. The Packers, the Packers aren't a top 5 team right now, and they're completely injured, and they beat the crap out of us for 4 quarters. Yes, you got the W at the end, but at the end of the day, the Packers are a better team than you. That's been confirmed. They beat you the first time, they beat you the second time. You stole a win at the end. But they were better than you the first time, they were better than you the second time. That's just the situation. And so now, where does that leave you? The Bears fans seem to be completely oblivious to this. They're, what is the term? Blissfully ignorant. That's fine. They can enjoy that, I guess. But that's the reality, and you're right. Packers fans would not be super thrilled with the situation.
I think that's how the Bears fans should feel right now. Like, dude, we were playing the Packers like mass unit, and we could barely pull it out with a miraculous, unbelievable, like basically coin flip of good luck. And give them credit for making the plays and all that stuff at the end. But like again, it's not like they were playing the Packers like at even like medium strength. You know, and I know the Bears had a couple of receivers out or whatever, but, you know, Crimea River, we have freaking everybody injured. So that's what I'm going to be annoyed at anytime I see Bears fans floating. I'm just like, dude, okay, gotcha. you go and celebrate, that's fine. Anyways.
Yeah, it is very annoying because they're not nearly as good as their record, and most Bears fans refuse to acknowledge it, and that bothers me. Although some of them, I did see a few of them, before they knew they were going to win, basically saying this is pathetic, this is terrible, like this is embarrassing, whatever. I'm sure some of them recognize it. And I don't mind, again, if you're looking at it rightly, if you're looking at it and saying, I get that we're not like where we need to be, but I'm optimistic about our future, and I'm excited we're getting all these wins, and we're going to the playoffs. Like, this is a big deal for us. I don't have any issue with that. That's perfectly fine. I think that's reasonable. I think that's what you should think. But pretending that you've been some kind of a dominant team is freaking annoying. The luck factor has been out of control for you all season. I mean, some of it, again, is probably comes down to, you know, you need to have that mentality so you're ready to go. I've said since day one, they're too good of a team to lose to a bad team. And if you don't give your best shot or even a good shot, they'll probably beat you. And that in and of itself takes some level of talent. But against a good team, just not collapsing, you're going to lose. And that's just the situation. So, anywho, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to see what I can do about the whole violent femmes thing. I don't know. If some of you had no idea what I'm talking about, but probably going to be a disaster. I don't know. We'll talk to you later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bad feeling, won't you stay away just a little longer? It always seems like you're growing when I need some hope, just a little longer. Oh dear Packers, there's so many knees that have come to tear. Another voice says we're going crazy to see all our stars disappear. Trade 2 firsts for a fantasy. Parsons on the turf like his knee just gave up the fight. Ooh, slipping and sliding, there goes Kraft too. But now I have to find a way to make the playoffs right. Seems like you're growing when I watch love leave for the 10th one more time again. Oh, Lambeau faithful, won't you stand with me? just a little longer. You know the Bears always seem to be winning when I need the North just a little